Hello, I'm Ron Irwin.
I'm Victor Weibo.
And I'm Richard Perry.
And we
are the
Three Amigos.
We have a very special guest in studio today.
That's right.
Gloria Gifford. She'll be joining us in just a moment. She is one of the most talented people I've ever met in a city full of talented people, so that's saying a lot. But we have some messages we want to get out here in a moment. But I want to go back and pick up where we started last week. And this goes back to the book I wrote, 5150, the book. And it was inspired by an air show I went to in 2017 when I happened to run into an airplane. The last time I had seen that airplane was in Chu Lai, Vietnam, more than a half century before. Right. And that airplane will forever be burned in my skull because that airplane, I got to spend 13 months in Vietnam instead of 3. So it kind of left an impression. And I met a playwright one day, showed her the book, and she said, "That's good. You should write a story. You should do a one-man show." I said, "Well, okay, who's the one man?"
It's easier said than done.
Yeah,
Right there with
that's the problem. It's not supposed to be a comedy, okay? So I'm going to go and spend about 2 minutes on part of the script that I've written for myself because I'm not off book yet. And I wrote the book, which is really disturbing.
Radio's the best practice.
Yeah, we'll try.
There you go.
All right, so let's just pay attention and see if this has any appeal to anybody. If not, don't go away. Gloria will be here in just a couple of minutes, okay? So be patient. All right. Back in the 1950s and 60s, as the Vietnam War accelerated, America's draft law was brought into full force and effect. So for many, if not most of the men who served in Vietnam, the quick and simple answer to, "Why were you in Vietnam?" was, "I was drafted." But being drafted was not the way for everyone. I mean, for some people, they were simply a matter of being career military and going where ordered. For others, like me, it was a bit more complicated. In some ways, my going to Vietnam actually began with the destruction of my family, such as it was. From my earliest memory, there was intense and growing tension between Mom and Dad. Once I learned where and how they met, that condition became obvious, how that happened. Dad was a drummer and a band leader. Leading up to and through World War II, Dad took his band all over America, and he observed how alcohol affects people, and he didn't like it. He soon developed a little scam that the club owners loved. You see, it was quite common in the day for happy audience members to buy the band a round of drinks. But Dad didn't want to upset both the audience and the club owner by declining the drink, so what he did is he arranged for the bartender to fill an empty whiskey bottle with tea. So when the audience member bought Dad a drink, the bartender would simply pour the drink from the whiskey bottle, and everybody was happy. But Mom was a different story. On the other hand, she was a smoking hot party girl. In fact, in her prime, she looked shockingly like Marilyn Monroe. But Mom also loved alcohol. But Dad was a dude, and Mom was hot, so drinking could be overlooked. And their love and lust grew, eventually leading to the creation of Little O' Me, and their marriage, not necessarily in that order, but then it was game on. Mom began telling Dad that he had to get a real job. Dad, on the other hand, was of the opinion that playing drums and running a band was a real job, and it was one that he dearly loved. But Mom kept the pressure. And finally, Dad put down the drumsticks and picked up the one-ads. He got his real job, and he hated it. I very much recall one night when I was about 9 years old. Mom simply disappeared. Scared silly, I grabbed a blanket and a pillow, and I went to sleep on the front porch, hoping and praying that Mom would get back home safely. Well, sure enough, right around 3:30 that morning, I was awakened by Mom's loud and very slurred voice as she almost ran up to the house screaming that she was being chased by an armadillo in Oak Park, Illinois. Well, at least she got home okay. But the final crash occurred when I was 10. By then, hearing Mom and Dad screaming at each other had become routine. One night, it took a much darker and scarier turn as Mom began chasing Dad around the house flailing a butcher's knife. Dad escaped narrowly and never came back to that house while Mom was still there. It was all over but the paperwork. Now, clearly, all of the ugliness in my home as a child didn't make me all warm and happy, but while unpleasant, it wasn't completely devastating. Not yet. Nope, that came shortly after the formal divorce when Mom turned into a cougar, and she brought home her new boyfriend, Donald, who was 12 years older than me. And there was something about him that filled me with hatred the instant I saw him. So when Mom asked, "So, Ronnie, what do you think of Donald?" I responded honestly and said, "I think he's a foul, disgusting scumbag, and I dearly hope I never get to see him again." 2 weeks later, they got married. Mom and Donald had to move because Dad had received the house from his parents, so Mom couldn't grab it in the divorce. So Mom and Donald and me, we all moved into a filthy basement apartment that flooded whenever it rained, which was a lot in Chicago. Dad moved back into the house I had lived in for 10 years, and overall life now truly, truly sucked. There was a lot of details about just how ugly my life had become, including some truly brief involvement with the mafia. But by age 11, I became to understand that if I wanted to survive, I had to get out. I had to leave the mess. But where to go? It's kind of tough finding a place to live when you're 11. But fortunately, we had an option. You see, my dad's older sister, dear Aunt Merle, was a major force in the Chicago school area system. And because of that, she knew a lot about family things and places for kids to go. And she knew about a place up north in the very affluent area of Lake Bluff, Lake Forest, Illinois, that if you came from a troubled home, I qualified, and had a high IQ, I had no idea what an IQ was, but apparently I had one, you could get in. So we went up, I took the test, and I guess I had an okay IQ because they invited me in, and it was fine. The problem, however, was that, well, most of us were very happy to be away from our deeply troubled homes. We were also now in a group of very affluent kids, and there was a very common tendency for the local kids to look down on us. So better it was, but the overall effect soon became growing numbness within me. That's where we are for today. Okay so far?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. I don't see no standing ovation. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, audience.
Thank you. We'll get our
Thank you, Radio.
pre-recorded, but it's okay. Now, we have a little bit of commercial. We'll get to Gloria right away. Let's talk about something you should be talking about, Rich. You have some air conditioning issues.
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness, yes. Yeah, recently we have had, if it hasn't been an AC issue, then it's as common as the common cold. It's been completely horrendous, especially since we've been hitting those triple digits. We had that one point where we were up to, 115 degrees up.
14 degrees,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that day I remember walking into work and just being like, oh, yeah, my AC's out, my AC's out, my AC's out. Okay, cool. So right now I'm at about a list of 10. Let's see what happens when I hit noon.
You did not hire Greater Nation. That was your big mistake.
Yeah, that was the biggest problem. So, folks, if you're out there and if you're dealing with any sort of severe AC issue, or if you just want to make sure that your AC is going to survive what's going on this summer, there's a group you need to call here, and they're called Greater Nation Heating and Cooling. Now, the gentleman who runs this is a gentleman by the name of Paul Stanley, and what I can say about Paul is probably one of the most stand-up individuals I've met concerning just working business professionally. This gentleman is fantastic, and he gets the job done properly. He doesn't just go in and go, oh, yeah, looks like your Freon's a little low there. He actually just goes in, he gets it taken care of, and he makes sure that it lasts. So this is the number you need to call, 818-857-9651. Again, that's 818-857-9651. Call and get them over there to check your AC unit. You know what? If somebody came and checked it last week, have them come out and check it again, because you know that AC could flip in a heartbeat, and Paul will make sure that it gets taken care of.
And let me tell you, I got quite of a wine collection, and wine does not like heat.
Yeah, I was about to say, the battle you've been facing
You got to
with
be
that
drinking
has been
real
something.
quick to get it down before it rots. That's not good. But also, you don't want anybody to steal it, which is another problem. We have to have a fair number of thieves in this world, and just generally unpleasant people.
Right.
Most people are fine, but it only takes a few to cause a lot of trouble.
Yep.
And one of the things you can do nowadays is to install a security system in your premises. I live in a condo complex. We just put ours in. It's fantastic. Somebody came and did some nasty stuff at our pool the other day. Well, we got it on videos. Guess what? They're getting the bill.
There you go.
No, I'm telling you. It's not funny when you don't have the video, because now what are you going to do? I didn't do it. Sure, right. Watch this. Instant replay, Joe. So it's not that expensive. I mean, we got ours for, I'm not going to tell you how much, but it was about 20% of what you paid in your building.
Oh, oof.
I'm just saying. And it's every bit as good. These people are awesome. They're called First Digital Surveillance. It's the name of the company. They do great work. They had everything installed and up and running in less than a day. Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all.
And here's the deal. Just for you, because you are wise and intelligent and you're listening to the Three Amigos, you will get a special deal. If you buy any system with 3 or more cameras, you'll get 1 camera free. And that'll be the 1 camera that will catch the bad guy for you, I promise it. Police and fire, you get 10% off. So if you happen to be a police officer or fireman or fire lady or whatever, you get 10% off. First Digital Surveillance is the name of the company. Give them a call, 310-901-4949. 4954. Okay, go get your lipstick ready and write it down. 310-901-4954. And now we have a very special guest to introduce. I think we have a little music for her. Okay.
All right, here we go. A little bit of Spinal Tap.
Love that movie.
Rick, take it away.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, Gloria, thank you so much for being here with us. First and foremost,
Welcome.
yeah, getting to chit chat you with in Green Room, has been a treat, and so I'm really looking forward for the guests to get to hear all about that. So, okay, go ahead and start off just by telling us, one, you've been teaching a master acting class at the American Film Institute, which is one of the top institutes here in the United States, but even more so, you also taught in Milan, Italy. Tell us what that was like.
Well, that was a great experience for me because I was validated as an actress, a teacher, a director, and a woman. And Milan is a center because Switzerland is there, France is there, and you get people from all over the world. Even though I had a film festival here, and just before I went to Milan, these Italians came and they said, "Oh, you're going to Italy for the first time. Where are you going?" I said, "Milan." They said, "Oh, that's not Italy."
Really?
Well, because it's such a cosmopolitan city, but it's amazing, and Lake Como is right there, and it's gorgeous. The thing is, as I said, I had a student, a top model. His name was Eduardo Costa, and I taught him at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. He bought a male modeling agency, the top one in Milan, Beatrice, and he decided that models and actors should have somebody from the United States come and teach them. So he talked me into going over there for 2 months. And I taught every single day. And I taught people from all over the world. And I taught models from all over the world. And I want to tell you, more men models came to my class than females. Which was interesting because I had that class every Saturday morning, and it would be 18 guys over 6 feet tall, top models from around the world. That was a great experience.
And you got paid for this.
I was yes. And I ended up directing a show on national television, too. Wow. I did an improvisation show for them on a show called The Marquetta Show. That that was a great experience. So it was terrific. I loved it. And the actors, what they had the first night I was there, I said to them, "Oh, you have what I've been looking for all the time, passione." They have passion. And because they have that kind of passion, they're excited about everything. So that was exciting for me from day one. Yeah. I like
absolutely.
a lot of passion. I don't like laid back.
Right.
That's why you're fun, Ron.
I've never been accused of that before.
You're not laid back.
Oh my goodness! And so then, aside, I guess would be the big difference between American actors and international actors is just that passion, that desire.
Yeah, the passion was intense, and I was able to. I knew that they would have the classics in Italian, so I got Tennessee Williams plays in Italian and everything, and I had them do Cat on Hudson Roof and Streetcar in Italian, but I knew them inside out, so I could direct them. And the girl who was my interpreter had been one of my students at the Playhouse, so it ended up being amazing, and my classes were packed, and in fact, I just got a message yesterday from one of the female models who's coming over here, and she said, "I'm going to be in Santa Monica. Can I see you?" And I haven't seen her in all that time. And so I'm still in contact with a lot of them. And a lot of them have come here to study.
That's super cool.
So it's great.
Yeah. Especially the fact that you have the students still keeping in contact with you, still following up.
Absolutely.
That's got to be a great feeling.
Because you know what? It was when I was leaving, the night I was leaving, the Eduardo took me to dinner, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and there were like 60 students on the street outside the restaurant just waiting for me to finish so they could go back into my hotel in the lobby and just stay with me till 4 o'clock in the morning when I was leaving. Because I said to them, and it's true, I said, yes, this was an extraordinary experience, But for most of you, I'll never see you again. You know, so it's like, you know, it's that powerful. Someone comes into your life for 2 months and you see them almost every day, and then your life has changed.
They're off.
And then you may never see them again.
Yeah.
So, you know, they were very loving. It was an extraordinary experience for me. I was very lucky.
Wow.
That just made my heart just
It
all sorts
does.
of
What a
warm
great
inside.
story.
It was.
a
They were
great
great.
connection.
That's
Great people.
Like to have that
And Eduardo
experience.
has come here, and he's always talking to me about it because the school doesn't exist anymore. So, you know, he's an actor. He's acting.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say, Eduardo, he was in.
Die Hard.
Yes,
The
exactly.
third one, I think it was. I think it was the third one. You
Yeah.
think so? Yeah.
I do believe you're
Because he
correct
made
about that.
and how he talked me into going was he invited me down to the set down in San Pedro, and I went
Mm-hmm.
down there, and when he was working with Bruce Willis and Timothy Oliphant.
Yeah.
And I was looking, and he said, "No, Gloria." He had to talk me into it because to get me to move, that's a big deal. You know, it's like, you know, because I had to move everything. I have classes here and
Right,
my
right.
acting career and everything, and it's like, okay, for 2 months I have to get other people to come in and take care of everything, but it was done. I would do it again.
That's fantastic, man. That had to be so cool getting
Yeah.
to travel that. So I mean, your past, everything you've done is extremely impressive. I mean, the fact that you got to work alongside with Richard Pryor in California Suite, like.
Well, that was
How
a very,
is-
you know, that was, I was just, it's so funny because I got a Broadway show, and the very first day of rehearsal, it was with Zero Mostel, and the very first day of rehearsal, and it was based on a Shakespearean play. They televised it because it was the first time Zero was going to do a non-musical.
And
Because it was based on The Merchant of Venice. And so actually it was Bill Cosby who saw me and called William Morris and said, "Oh, you know, bring her in because I want you to meet Sheldon Leonard, who was a famous producer, to offer her me a pilot." But I said, "Look, this is my Broadway debut, and I'm not giving it up. So no." So then we went to, I know it's unbelievable, and then so then we went to Philadelphia, and Zero died. And he died, and then Cosby said, "Now are you available?" I said, "No, because we're going back to New York with the understudy, and we're still going to open on Broadway. We're going to do the Kennedy Center, you know, blah, blah, blah." And eventually what happened is when the play opened and closed, my agent said, "You know, why don't you call Bill Cosby?" Because he was trying to get you to, I said, "All right, fine." I called him. And he said, "I'm doing this other movie, but I can only introduce you to the director, and he went to the director. This is so interesting. And he said, he gave the director 3 names. And the director said, "Oh, she just worked with John Dexter. That was the man who had directed me on Broadway.
Yeah.
If she worked with, I only want to see her." And so had I given up the Broadway show, I never would have gotten California
those things
Suite.
work.
Wow.
And so I met with Herbert Ross, and then he flew me out here to meet Neil Simon, and then I got to play opposite Richard. And Richard was a sweetheart. He really was a sweetheart. I mean, we stayed friends, and I just think he was troubled. He had his big drug problem, but to me, he treated me like gold. And so for me, it was a great way to got my equity card with the Broadway show, and I got my SAG card with the co-starring in a movie,
Right.
making $5,000 a week for the first time. So that was great.
Back
Great
when that was a
introduction.
huge
Back
amount
when
of
that
money.
was a huge amount of money,
No
yeah. So
kidding.
$5,000 a week, and with a driver and everything. So so then my second movie was a low budget Halloween 2, and
Yep.
and I went from like having a driver and $5,000 a week to they hate when I say this, but it's true. We had on California Suite, it was Neil Simon and Ray Stark. It was huge. I mean, Alan Alda, Maggie Smith won the Oscar for it.
Yep.
I accepted her Golden Globe for her and took it to London to give her. But I went the next movie. We were in some damn hospital out in East Bejesus, and our craft services was ice cream bars, and they hate when I say it, but it's true. So
Yep. There you go.
So I had the top, I had the bottom, whatever. But
Yeah.
that became a cult film, and I've now. It's so funny because it's 30 years later, and I sometimes go to the conventions and sign autographs for people who saw it then, see it now, whatever. And that's the movie that lasted, ironically.
Yeah, the cult.
You know,
That's
it's
how
the
it
irony of
works.
life. You
Yeah.
know, it's the
Yeah.
irony of life. That's a big cult movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's super cool though. Just how everything just kind of fell perfectly in place. Each decision, staying true to the Broadway show, but then having that tie in perfectly. Neil Simon too. I
He
mean,
was so wonderful to me. He was so wonderful. He was on the set. He was. I love Neil, and I mean, I have all his plays autographed, and he was sensational. But it was a great. I was very lucky. The director had directed Richard Dreyfuss to an Oscar in The Goodbye Girl, so was Herbert Ross, and so I mean it was all top level. I mean the first day I go on the set and they're introducing me to Walter Matthau, and he says. They go, this is Gloria. She just did a Broadway play, and he goes, I did 8 plays, and he was, and I thought, but you're Walter Matthau, and so it was nothing but stars in the movie, but all loving, very sweet people, no problems, so that worked out great.
What I'm hearing from you, Gloria, is not only a passion but a sense of commitment.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And when you do something, you do it. Mm-hmm.
That is true.
And
I'm a
I
finisher.
think that's part of what makes you a desirable person to work with,
Thank you.
as opposed to, I can go get more over there. Well, bye. See.
Oh
you.
no, I'm not like that.
No, but that's
No.
that. But I think that might be a career ender for people.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they like people who keep their word.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense.
You can't always do that, but you have to try.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Integrity.
So, talking about plays here, if we can swing into this one that we were talking to the green room for a little bit, one of my personal favorites, Mr. Stephen Adley Gurgis, and your production of Our Lady of 121st Street. I mean, not only did it have the rave reviews here in Los Angeles and you bringing that material out here, but the fact that you kind of spearheaded this, I mean, please, if you don't mind sharing that with the audience.
Well, I say it, and I'm sure people will complain it's not true, but it's true. That it took me 2 years to get the rights to the play. Because we do on Wednesday nights in my acting class, we often do full readings of plays, and I'll just find all these plays and cast them in class, and then we do a full reading, and that's when actors will say to me, "Oh, we got to do this play. This is the play we got to do," whatever. And then if there's that much passion for it, I'll go for it. So with Our Lady 121st Street, nobody knew who Gurgis was. I went to 2 major theater producers here, and they said, "We don't know him. Sorry," and I was like, well, okay. So I got the money myself, which is another unbelievable story. And because no secrets, because we were going to do it at the Matrix Theater, and he wanted $5,000 a weekend.
Whoa.
So he only had a slot of 4 weekends, and I had to borrow $20,000.
That's not even 99 seats, is it?
It is 99, yeah. But I borrowed the $20,000. He wanted it up front, and and then I cast it, and I double cast it because I don't like to be held
Hostage.
hostage by
by one cast, right,
actors
that makes
who
sense.
often go, "Well, I don't care," and I go, "Fine, goodbye."
Yeah.
So that was hard because that's a lot of people.
No kidding.
But we had a really strong cast, and I was very proud of them. They worked very hard. And someone had told me that, I don't know where I read it, that he was like, if you couldn't change any of his words, which I'm like that anyway. So I sat with the script and busted them, and they were mad at me. They were really mad because I was like, no, it's and, not but. It's blah, blah, blah.
Word perfect.
So it was word perfect.
Yeah.
Fortunately, 2 people came from New York who I think might have been his spies. And they came to see the production, and they met me, and they said, it was the same play. You didn't change anything, but it was exactly different. And it was so moving, and it was very romantic. And I think that's what I wrote an acting book called Acting Where's the Love. And that is really what I look for. I like to put the love into everything. People think, oh, you can't, but I think you can. And it was romantic. And the actors, I had an actor who booked a series in Atlanta while we were doing this, and he flew back every weekend so he wouldn't miss his chance to do it. He's a working actor, Antonio Jaramillo. He's now got a new series from Kurt Sutter called Mayans that's coming out.
yeah.
But he was like
Effects,
he was like Jennifer Lopez's ex-husband on Shades of Blue, and I mean he's done tons of stuff since then.
Right.
But he was like he said no one had ever directed him the way I did, because I'm pretty tough. I mean, it may seem like I'm really nice right now, but I'm not. I'm
No,
very,
I've seen you in action.
yeah, I'm tough.
I've seen you in action.
I'm tough.
Yeah.
I'm really tough. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. I had nuns, and that's how I do everything. So it was, it was a great experience, and we're standing room only. We had lines out the street, and so I established a relationship with Stephen by getting that play and making it a success. And it did open up. He then trusted LA actors. And then everybody did his plays. You can't, Judas Iscariot has been done so many times here. And Jesus Hopped the A Train. And, I like In Arabia Would All Be Kings because it's kind of wild and crazy. But this new one, can I say it?
Yes.
The motherfucker with a hat.
I love it.
Well, it was on Broadway,
Right.
and I'm from New York, so
Yep.
I say it.
Exactly.
I use that word a lot. So,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
but it's a title that's very provocative, and people, I think
the
it's
maternal copulator.
The maternal copulator. There you
it's
go.
been bringing people in. I think that, and we're doing very well with it. And thank you, Ron, for coming and giving us a good review. And we got. The first 4 reviews were powerful, and then we just got one 2 days ago where he started it with "wow." So everybody's very excited, and we're going to run till the end of September. We're in Hollywood.
Understand this. I write honest reviews.
Oh, I know that. Oh, I know that.
And so where for us who are nearby who could go see the show, where could we go see?
Well, it's in Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard. They go to Gold Star.
Go to Gold Star.
Or Tix.com and say, the motherfucker with the hat. Okay.
Mother, father.
They'll find it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because I'd definitely like to see this.
with the hat.
Yeah.
You know what? And that title, of course, is kind of like a what?
Yeah.
We're just a little bit out there, but when you watch the show, it all makes sense. It all comes together. Like, oh yeah, I can see where. Yeah, the hat. Mm-hmm.
And
Messing around with it.
Yeah, and the cast you saw, which was Danny Siegel and Joey Marie Urbino, and
Right.
I think you saw Keith Walker and Keturah Hamilton and Christian Maltese. That I have different casts,
Right.
Okay.
And even though Joey is fabulous, my other 2 Veronicas are also gorgeous and sexy, and people are coming and they're falling in love with their Veronica. It's like, oh, we love Raven Bowens, or we love, Nancy Vivar. And I go, they're all great.
Yeah.
I chose them that way because I wanted the girls to be very hot, very sexy, and very and full of energy and passion.
You got that right.
Yeah, yeah.
You got that totally right.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted.
That's his
And so
favorite part of
there
the
were a
show,
lot of
sounds
people
like.
who wanted to play it, and a lot of girls who were, pushing. And I said, look, if you can look as hot as these girls, and you can sound like them, and you can, then fine. But
Now,
no,
that just doesn't sound right from one woman to another.
I'm sorry, but that's the cast.
man,
It says
it's
she's
the
hot,
truth.
she's hot, she's hot. He keeps saying it. They say it throughout the entire play. What am I going to go?
Yeah.
What am I
Yeah.
going to do? Get someone who's like semi-hot? No, so
Well, you have
know.
to be creative and imagine.
yeah, no, not when it's
you're
visual.
right.
It's a visual business. So.
And they're all rehearsing together, the cast.
Everybody
right?
rehearsed together, yes, and everybody comes to all the rehearsals, and then they don't know when they're going up. Like, in other words, the next weekend's cast just found out Sunday night,
Okay.
and then I will. It's not like they know the whole show, the whole thing, the run. They
This is
don't.
so you keep them hot.
That's right.
Keep 'em sharp.
And also, if you give me a lousy performance, you won't be going up for a while. And I will tell you that night because I give notes after every show. And I will say, okay, you blew it. I mean, we had a performance one Saturday night, and one of my top actresses, I don't know what got into her. Not my Veronica, it was the other actor. And she was doing a Virginia Woolf. And I said, and we got a bad review. And I was going to choke her, and I said, you're not going up for like weeks now, because I can't live through this again. So that she's like, give me another chance. I said, you'll get another chance. But they all have to pay to do the show because they pay for the advertising and everything like that. They don't pay for the theater, but
Right.
So I know.
So this is a training experience for them.
For them, it is. It's a training experience as well, and that's what this a guy, this reviewer came the other night, Stephen Stanley, and he said, "You're probably the only acting teacher in this town that also puts on productions, full productions, not little things, so that these actors can get that experience." And I said, "Yeah, and you know what? It works, and we videotape it. They get tape, everything. Yeah."
No, there's one other person.
Who?
And he was one of our guests about second time of the show. It was Chick Venera.
But Chick and I are good friends. We studied with Milton Kitselis together.
Yeah, you know Chick, right?
Yeah, Chick and I love Chick. Now, Chick, is
a
a very
small world.
interesting. But he and I studied with Milton Kitselis for 25 years. So Chick is trained the same way I'm trained.
Okay.
Right.
And Chick is, the funny story about Chick is that I saw him in a play in New York that Milton directed before I ever knew who Milton was or Chick or anything. And then I taught his daughter for a while when I was teaching teenagers. And I love him. He's great and a terrific actor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we've been friends for a while.
Yeah,
He's teaching
he's-
now,
We
too.
met in a cigar store.
Well, he was teaching at the Playhouse, and then after Milton died, who was our mentor, then he went off on his own, and he's terrific. What are you talking about? He's
Oh,
great.
Yeah.
See?
yeah. I'm gonna
I
take
knew
his
there
class
was
on
a
Thursday.
connection.
Well,
because,
yeah.
because of the same
Yeah,
attitude, the same style.
Yeah, we're the same that way. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. Rick's actually going to take one of his classes tomorrow night.
Okay, now I
Starting
gotta
tomorrow
say,
night.
I've got to say this. My
Speaking of
daughter
training.
went to Rick's class for a little bit, and then she went to USC, which whatever. But he said to me one day, he says, "Ron, your daughter's the next Natalie Portman."
Wow.
And I said, "God, I hope you're right." So that was just that little thing, because you never forget that. When coming from him, he's like you, both very credible.
Yeah, and
you don't say
he's
stuff
very
that's baloney.
very passionate.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's not laid back. He's not fake. He's not anything. He's just, he's terrific.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
there you go. See,
Down to
we have
earth,
the two
passionate
best acting teachers in the country. Have both been in this studio. So what does that say about us?
That we either know people or we do a very good job of bribing.
Yeah. And we need some
By the way,
training.
we'll have the
Yeah.
check for you.
Okay.
All right. Wait outside.
So let's take a quick break for a moment
Yes, absolutely.
and get back to our two wonderful sponsors so that we can keep them happy.
Of course.
And we'll talk about air conditioning first.
All right. Yes.
I'll
Please,
do the
by
air
all means.
conditioning now. We'll talk about air conditioning. I remember it was a couple of years ago. Our air conditioner went boom, and kind of like the heat we just had.
Oh.
3 days in a hotel because there was no way,
Right.
and then thousands and thousands of dollars
In
to
repairs.
repair or replace the machine.
Eek.
I didn't know Paul that back then. I wish I had, and I also wish I'd had the common sense that said, do an annual check.
Yeah. Check it out every year.
Just because where we live,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're going
it
to
gets
need
a little
it.
hot here, and you sort of
And
need the AC.
So he's got a special deal. Paul, what I want you to understand about this is there's all kinds of HVAC people out there. Most of them are very fine. But I'm always worried about the guy because if you knew what it was all about, you go take care of it yourself, right? You don't. So you got to depend this guy, and the guy comes off the roof and he goes, "Well, I don't know, George. You need this and that." You go, "How do you know that's true?"
Yeah.
I've had, just the other day, Paul came over just to do a routine. And all he did is he handed me a filter. He said, "Take care of that. That's all you need." How much? Never mind. Don't worry about it. But he's that kind of guy. He's real. Yeah. He's got a deal for you. He'll come and check your machine right now for $79. That's the best $79 you're going to spend this year. This is going to keep you happy.
Yeah.
It's going to keep you safe.
$80
It's going
for
to keep
peace
you.
of
It's
mind.
going to keep your wine collection like mine alive. So give him a call. His name of the company is Greater Nation Heating and Cooling. You don't need the heating right now, but that comes later. Greater Nation Heating and Cooling. Paul Stanley is the guy. Give him a call now at 818-857-9651. One more time, get the eyeliner. 818-857-9651. Call him and say the Three Amigos said we should call you. That's what we're doing it. And you'll get a good deal.
Yeah. No kidding. That's cheap. Like I said, it's
And
cheaper
now
than
for
a
the
meal at
criminal
Cheesecake
element
Factory.
out there.
Security.
Yeah, exactly. That's including bread, dessert, and a drink. Oh yeah, so security. Security is extremely important. Extremely important, actually. We had something recently that happened. I can't go into too much detail, but we, fortunately enough, have our camera system, so we were able to at least get a good idea of who we needed to contact to make sure that the situation doesn't happen
Really?
again.
Where is Kyle?
I can't really say right now. For those who are listening, Kyle, you might want to hide, buddy.
Yeah. It's like they're onto you now.
Yeah, they are. Usually, okay, I was about to say he's 6'2". No, so here's the deal. With security, usually there is something very important, and that is to have visual knowledge. It's extremely important to have that. It's extremely important to be able to look and see exactly what happened, when it happened, and who did what. And that's why you want to get a hold of these gentlemen right here at First Digital Surveillance. Now, First Digital Surveillance, they're doing a deal here like you were talking about earlier. You buy 3 cameras, you get the 4th one for free. That's a heck of a deal. I look at that the same way I look as,
Oh, one thing you should know, too, about their cameras. They're
Yeah.
top drawer. They're
Top
not
drawer.
quite Panavision, but they're excellent. They're good low light visibility, good color.
Oh, see, that's really good. Having
yeah.
low light visibility is especially helpful.
Incredible, because like down in our basement area there, it's very low light, and I've got really sharp visuals of a lot of things that go on down there at night.
I think we're going to cut off at that point.
No, we're not.
No need for full disclosure.
Right, no full disclosure here. When you have security cameras from First Digital Surveillance, by the way, like you said earlier, they are doing a discount for those of you who are part of the police department or the fire department. You get 10% off. I mean, 10% off, and you're also getting the 4th camera for free. I wish they did that for, vehicles with tires. I mean, imagine how much. Oh, that'd be fantastic. So here's what you want to do. You want to call this number 310-901-4954. Again, that's 310-901-4954.
And we're with Gloria Gifford today, who is one of the most accomplished performance professionals on the planet. You have your own business, and as long as we're giving out phone numbers of people that might want to consider taking an acting class with you, would you care to promote that at all?
Oh, yeah, that's fine. It's called the Gloria Gifford Conservatory, actually for the performing arts, but it just says the Gloria Gifford Conservatory. And it's 310-535-4999. They can also go on the website, Gloria Gifford Conservatory, and they can just email us through that.
I would suggest that if acting is something that you really are serious about, Gloria or Chick.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
that's true.
it. That pretty much covers it.
Yeah, if you
training.
have mommy issues, then go to Chick.
You got daddy
And if you have
issues, go to
daddy
Gloria?
issues, go to Gloria. It's very simple.
That's
Perfect.
Personality-wise, very
Strokes
comparable.
for different folks, exactly.
You can,
I mean,
you
it's-
can feel the New York energy there.
Yeah, it's true.
You did another show that I saw, Anthony and Cleopatra, that I thought was spectacular.
With music.
With music, and it wasn't the music you were expecting.
No.
It was a hip hop musical of an old classic. You explained it. 'Cause
Well, we've been doing the Shakespeare plays, and we had done the Comedy of Errors, and it was we did the Tempest, and then we did the Comedy of Errors, and it was really successful. So then I decided to do Much Ado About Nothing, and I just wanted to put in the music. So I picked songs that I love, and we played the music, and the actors had to sing along with it, and it told the story. So then it was so successful that we decided to do it with Antony and Cleopatra, and it's like 13 or 14 songs in there, and people really responded to it because Shakespeare can sometimes be difficult to digest, but actually, if somebody breaks out in a song, you understand completely what's going on. And so it was very exciting, and the actors, it was very, it was hard. But you know what's funny? As much as we've done all the Shakespeare and everything, they felt Gurgis was harder.
Really?
Yeah.
Was
And
it
the-
about finding the emotion? or-
No. It was because he has a rhythm to the way he wrote the play. And I forced them to do that rhythm. And it's like sometimes he has very long sentences. And I said, and you cannot stop. You've got to go all the way through that sentence. And they were like, oh, this is so difficult. And then with the short sentences, you can stop and act.
Right.
So, if like you say, my life is over, gone. Okay, you can do that. But if you say, and then I went to the store, and then this happened, and that 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 happened, and that, and they were like, oh, it was driving them crazy, and they kept saying, this is so hard. And I said, you've done 4 Shakespeare plays. This cannot be that hard. But Shakespeare has a rhythm too. But they had gotten into the. Now they're in love with him, and
Oh, absolutely.
they just want to. But I love Shanley too, John Patrick Shanley, who was
Yes.
Gurgis's mentor, and in New York at the Labyrinth Theater Company, where he always does all his first plays. Philip Seymour Hoffman directed all of his plays in New York, Gierges's plays. That's who directed They were very, very, very close friends. Wow. And so it was a big, to me, sort of honor and commitment to be true to what they had done and not try to water it down in any way or make it palatable for, California audiences.
Right.
But there's so many East Coasters out here now
Yeah.
that,
And that was sort of his fear with bringing it to L.A., right?
Yeah.
That it loses the
that
urban
you're going to
feel.
lose that urban feel that it's going to turn into something else, because he did have to close down a production in San Francisco that was all white, because he wants his cast to be multi-ethnic. He writes about
Right.
He's Egyptian.
Yeah.
Okay, so then he wants the New York feel of the Puerto Ricans and the blacks and the white and the Italian, and they cast this whole thing like. And he said, he says in the beginning of the play, unless you're doing this in Norway, there's no reason for this not to be multi-ethnic.
Well,
Yeah.
And,
Yemeni.
yeah. I mean, and that's the color of New York City.
Right.
It's all mixed together like that. So,
Well,
but I understand.
LA's kind of like that now too.
LA is like that, but so there's no reason for anything to
Yeah.
be not that way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I've always done that kind of casting. Always.
Well, I was very inspired as a high school freshman by the first Shakespearean play I saw, because the words were, "If music be the food of love,
Yeah.
play on, give me excess of it." So I began to listen to rock radio and chase girls for 4 years.
Oh yeah. So he inspired
It was
you.
Shakespearean.
Well, he was a Taurus, just like you.
I didn't know that.
That's right.
Wow.
Well,
Shakespeare
actually,
and
I
I have
did-
nothing in common. No, our birthdays.
I had a quick question, because you mentioned how you had put music to Much Ado. I was really curious. Like, Much Ado is one of my personal favorites. What music did you find really matched with the
What can I
story?
remember that we used? Are you kidding? You'd be surprised. I mean, it was. I don't know. At one point, they did. It was so physical. I made it so physical. But I know the girls. One point when she's realizing she's falling in love with him, she sang "Gee Whiz," which is an old song.
Oh,
Gee
yeah.
Whiz, and then so that's the kind of music it was. You
Okay.
didn't know where it was coming from. It was definitely songs that people loved. At the beginning, the first song that we did that threw the audience into was. The soldiers are all coming back
Right.
from war, and all the townswomen are meeting them, and the guys turn around. They did a Pitbull song. I know you want me. And it was all the guys in their outfits, and the audience went crazy over it. And that's what I do. I mix it and match it, because I was a singer. I had a Warner Brothers recording contract.
Yes, you did.
And so I know a lot of music. So I just pull from different eras, put it in there. It's a surprise, but everybody feels it.
That's too
Yeah, the
perfect.
Pitbull song was. It started off the night. People were just like, "Oh, we're gonna have fun."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
Much Ado
hooks
is going to
the
be fun.
audience
We
in.
had a Barry White song, we had a Al Green song, different things like that. So different people. So
It's so funny when
Yeah.
you mentioned that. I imagine like Dogberry's character coming out and just going
oh,
completely off.
Dogberry's character came out and did a James Brown,
Oh, that's
and it was
perfect.
really it tore down the house. Yeah.
That's perfect.
So it was just I
feel
pick
good.
everything. Yes, practically. And I throw in, and the actors don't know the songs at first. They knew the Pitbull,
Right.
But then they fall in love with all that music, because it's
And were they musically inclined too, or
well, they will be after the show. Although I have some singers, real singers in my class
that helps.
that are professional singers. One of the girls who's going to be playing one of the roles in Motherfucker with a Hat. Her name is Lucy Walsh, and her dad is Joe Walsh of the Eagles. So, and she's toured with Maroon 5, and she's sung a lot.
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
The daughter of Joe Walsh. That's impressive.
Yeah, and
So
he
she's
usually
probably-
comes to the shows, and so
Oh, that's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, she's a terrific actress. She's a redhead. She looks like a younger, prettier version of Jessica Chastain. She's very pretty, and very talented, and very committed, and works really, really hard. And she will be a Victoria in another week or so.
Okay.
Oh, that'll.
Okay. Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right.
Take two.
That's like I'm sold. Let's go get tickets.
Yes.
All right. So you have.
Well, I
A
mean,
whole litany of things.
exactly. I mean, I'm happy you touched base too on John Patrick Shanley. I love Danny and Deep Blue Sea. One of my personal favorites. Absolutely love it, love it, love it.
I love Italian American Reconciliation because I was in New York. For a year in like the 80s. I had to go back for my dad. And I was just about to fly back, and a friend of mine, Leo Rossi, who starred in The Accused and a bunch of other movies and just actually produced the new Gotti movie, he called me and said, we had Nichelle Nichols from Star Trek in this role, and she quit after the first week. Can you, we have a performance next weekend. And I said, oh, that's funny. I'm just coming back on Monday. So Sam Shepard's sister was directing the play. And I came back on a Monday and had to go up on a Friday with Joe Pantoliano and Elizabeth Pena. And I learned the show in a week and went up. And then I ended up doing Italian American, which that's my favorite Shanley. It's a lot like Moonstruck, which he wrote and got an Oscar for, and I love that play. And then and it's funny because the guy said to me, a former student of mine from the Playhouse came to see our play the other night. He had directed the same play in San Francisco, and he said and one of his producers had come and seen it the week before and said, "What did you do?" And I said, "Well, and he said, "You're the one that introduced me to Shanley." And I said, "Because I brought it to the Beverly Hills Playhouse because people didn't know it.
Right.
They didn't know him. And suddenly everybody was Shanley fanatics,
Yeah.
But I love the way he writes. He's very romantic.
Oh yeah.
Very, very, very romantic. And Gerges is more political, as I said.
Right.
More, what's happening in this world.
Right.
After Mama or maternal copulator.
Mother, father.
No.
What am I doing next?
Yeah, what's coming next?
I never tell anybody because the students, it's always a surprise. Because I always go, because they have different things they push for.
Okay. So yeah, it's all based on how passionate they are about the work that you guys are working on.
If they're really passionate, we do a reading and everybody's like on fire, and then I go, okay, let's see. I'll try to get the rights and we'll see. We're going to do it.
Okay.
How long does it take you to figure out when a student has a very good opportunity of becoming successful versus go get another job?
It has nothing to do with talent, and it has everything to do with drive. And, it's so funny because I was reading something this morning about a famous composer, and he said it's the same thing in every part of the business. You've got to be a great communicator, a great collaborator, and you've got to be driven. And that is what makes somebody successful. You are not successful because you are talented. Talent, everyone has. It's a given.
Right.
But are you willing to work with other people? Are you willing to, push and be persistent? Can you take the no's? Because our businesses all know, and so, that's what I look for in somebody. How hard do you work? And I've had a lot of students over the years, and I've had some very successful students. Oh, you were going to ask me about George Clooney. You forgot to ask me.
No, I've been loving the conversation.
He wasn't my student, but
No, you because you had produced the production that he was in of The Biz, and you also had worked along with him. And I was just curious, like what?
Well, what happened was my boyfriend at the time, and I'm not giving him credit for anything much right now, but he wrote this little play, and Miguel Ferrer, who's Rosemary Clooney's son, Miguel was a good friend. He was in class with us, and we'd done it, and my boyfriend wanted Miguel to direct it, and so he directed it. And then George was coming to town, and Miguel said, "Can he please, take over this one little role?" And I said, "Okay." But one of my students ran into George at the Chateau Marmont a couple of months ago, and said to him, "So, Gloria Gifford." And George went, "Yes, yeah, Gloria, so, because I guess they're always testing me. I say,
Okay,
Right.
Yeah.
and then they go, really?
Write it down.
And then they just drop my name to somebody to see,
Yeah.
See
this
the
person going to
reaction.
go, huh?
Yeah.
Or is it true? Yeah, it's all true. And I got to,
Sister Gloria.
yeah. But is it? And George was like, "Oh my God, yes, it was so great. That was my first job." Blah blah blah. So that's how that happened.
Well, the one thing I have on George Clooney is I'm much
He's a
better
Taurus
riding.
also.
No, I do a much better job riding my motor scooter.
Oh yeah. Do you ride a motor scooter?
Yep.
Do you know that he bought that house in Lake Como for $10 million, and after he bought it, it's now worth $100 million.
Really?
And you can't buy anything in Lake Como for less.
My
than
daughter
that.
was just vacationing there.
Yeah,
That's her idea of
It's a
where
George
she should be
Clooney
living.
effect.
it's gorgeous. I love Lake Como.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She does too.
It's right outside Milan.
I know. She knows where it is. Get to work, girl. Well, that's it. We've had a wonderful 45
Yes.
minutes or so.
Fantastic.
Thank
It's been
you.
too little.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank
Hope
you.
to have
for
you
coming
back in
by.
soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Enjoy Chick's class.
Oh, yes,
Tell 'em
ma'am.
hi for me.
You got it.
I'm Victor Weibo.
I'm Richard Perry.
I'm Ron Irwin. We are.
The Three
Three
Amigos.
Amigos.
Thanks for listening.